And welcome to an Adam Gold Show special report. We have a lot of things to discuss. I am joined by, as always, my friend Jay Kumar, because we are going to talk Premier League, but also the whole reason Jay and I became friends, and this is no joke at all. This is his dad, Sankar Kumar. And we got to go back about 24 years, maybe. And me, because I like to make fun of things or just do things a little bit differently sometimes on this radio show that I host, I thought, wow, it would be fun to talk about the World Cup of cricket. And this was, again, 24, I don't even know how many years, a lot of years ago. And I started talking about it, and I started getting email from Sankar. And he explained it, and we actually used his emails, even brought him on the radio to explain what was going on. I have become a fan of the sport. I am Team Brian Lara. Windies forever. Of course, Windies are not the same anymore, but Sachin Tendulkar, I mean, legend, all of that. And we were so excited because it looked like India was going to roll to the World Cup title on home soil. And it didn't happen. So I need Sankar to tell us why. First of all, hi, Jay. It seems like you and I haven't spoken in a week. But let's get right to your dad. Why didn't this happen? What happened? How do you only score 240 runs?
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Adam. And thank you for having me in the show. And as you said, that it is more than 30 years. In fact, I think we have been associated with this one right from the G105 times and your radio talk show times. Anbudan, that is how you and Chris used to call me. And then Anbudan, where are you? And then it's just how you used to call me.
Yes.
Anbudan means with love, with love. And that is my nickname. And that's how you used to call me. And they used to make fun of me also. And I remember those days when you could not, I mean, a batter in a baseball game is called as a batsman.
Right.
And then you could not rightly say the master batsman. And I used to remember that is how you mispronounced it and then made it look like differently.
Right. He's a master batter. What?
I know, but master batsman. But you combine all the words, jumble together, and then I remember those days when you were, and I mean, there were really good times. And coming back to the 2023 World Cup one-day international cricket, there were about 10 teams in the fray, and all the teams were chosen by the knockout stage, and everyone will play each one for 49 games to come out who comes the top four. And unlike baseball or basketball, there is no playoff or anything like that. It is just straight do and die. When you come to the final four, you just make the 1 and 4 meets and 2 and 3 meets, and whoever wins out of these two will meet the final. 3 games, just 3 games. It's an amazing phenomenon, so that there is no heartbreaks and last minute hiccups and all those things. What do you do on that particular day? That counts. Anyway, before coming to the semi-final and finals, we will talk about the overall tournament, that how it went off. England were the champions. England were the current past champions, and they just edged New Zealand in a trickish way. And even because both of them were on the same level, but still England just scored because they scored a few more boundaries, few more fours, and that is the reason why they were given the cup. And that is at that time itself, it was a very big debate at that time. But still, England were the champions and came with great hopes. And they have invented a new phenomena, that just ball game, that is go and hit. No matter whether it is T20 or one-day international or test match, just go and bang like any and so that rattle the bowlers so that we can just score runs and then we can win. So they came with the same set of mind and they bite dust here. And they were the last in this tournament. They were the last place in this tournament, England. They bowed out, and then Sri Lanka, then Netherlands, and like that, all the other teams, Bangladesh, Pakistan, India-Pakistan match was a very big highlight, but India just crushed them. And New Zealand were at the top to start with, and then South Africa took over. but India was always winning. India was winning all the matches. 9 matches they won in a straight row. All the 9 matches before reaching the semi-finals, and then there were beautiful highlights during this in the initial stages, where a batsman called Maxwell from Australia, who had severe cramps and had to be assisted 2 or 3 times, and who could not even run. He can only walk, and then he scored 200 runs, 200 runs single-handedly. Australia were 91 for 7 at one time
Wow.
against Afghanistan. 7 wickets down, only 3 more wickets to go with the 200 runs to score, still to score. And then this man Maxwell comes in with the cramps, and then he scores 200 runs, and that was the best one. And in the semi-final, our Mohammad Shami, which is the greatest bowler, in the semi-final match against New Zealand, he just took 7 wickets out of 10. There are 10 wickets to be taken in a match, and he took 7 wickets, and that was never done. These two feats have never been done. Double century, that is, we call a 200 is a double century, and that double century has never happened in one day international World Cup level, and then 7 wickets in a match has never happened. So these two were the highlights of this thing. And Quinton de Kock from South Africa, he scored 4 centuries, and that is the highlight. He is after 9 matches, he scored 4 times 100, more than 100 runs. And like that, I think there were so many beautiful highlights of this match. And coming back to the semi-final and final, India meet New Zealand, and it was a very tough match. And there was one factor, one Shreyas Iyer, who was now sent in as number 6, and he scored 600 runs in 60 balls, which is another record. A 60 in a World Cup, scoring a century in 60 balls as coming as the 6th batsman was a rare phenomenon, and that made the difference. And India had an edge because India scored 396 runs, and New Zealand came. And New Zealand is not a small team. They are always fighters. They somehow make a point to come into the finals somehow. So everyone was thinking that New Zealand will do this because they have strong lineup with the batting. And they did so. But they were short of 50 runs before they were edged out. And India went to the final. And between Australia and South Africa, it was never a match. Actually, South Africa did not show up very well. They were a very strong team, and they have interestingly they are being called as the chokers. They have come to the They in all World Cups they do very very greatly, but they will come up to the semi-final and final stage, they will choke. So South Africa was the traditional chokers. And they proved one more time, this time also, despite their batting, bowling, fielding, everything is outstanding, but still they could not make it. So it finally came to India and Australia. And the stadium is the new Modi Stadium in Gujarat, Ahmedabad, which has 100 million people can sit. That much of a big stadium, biggest stadium in the world, actually.
100 million is a
100
lot.
million. You mean 100,000?
100,000. Okay, maybe 100,000.
135,000.
I'm sort of being excited here. 100,000, 1 million, right?
I would not want to sit in the upper deck of 100
right,
million.
and it was jam packed, and there were India fervor. All the temples, there were always worships and other things for India's win. Everyone cheers for India, and India says that we have won 9 matches, so we are going to crash this Australia here also and take the cup in the home soil for the 3rd time. India has won 2 times already in 1984 and 2011, and that is when this shirt was bought.
There you go.
2011 shirt, and when India under Dhoni's captaincy they won this match. And the batting pitch, the pitch was absolutely perfect for batsmen and bowlers and fielding, everything. India lost the toss, and Pat Cummins chose to bowl first, and so they sent in India, and very strangely they were bundled out.
Yeah, let me ask a question real quick before I let you continue here. So it's a big decision for Australia. It's gutsy to send India up first because India had been crushing the ball. I mean, Australia could have put themselves in a very bad way, but Rohit Sharma did not bat well, and nor did Virat Kohli, who had he set the record for centuries in one-day internationals earlier in the tournament with his 50th, passing
Yes.
my guy
Sachin
Tendulkar. So Jay's just laughing at this. Gold has done way too much research about this.
No, this is awesome.
So my question: what was it? The bowling from Australia, or did India kind of fall prey to the big moment here?
India was a bit jittery and nervous to go in, but the opening partnership scored 80 runs in 10 overs. That was outstanding. That was a very good start. The opening batter, Rohit Sharma, Gill was out quickly, but Rohit Sharma and Kohli made sure that they gave a very good start, and they scored 80 runs. And the first 10, see, it is usually divided into 5 10 overs, 50 over game. Right. So first 10 overs, 80 is that means you multiply it. The score should have been 400.
Mm-hmm.
If it is 50 overs at the same rate. But what happened, the second 10 overs, Australia bowled so very tightly and the fielding was so nice. David Warner was outstanding. He himself personally saved about 30 runs from boundaries and going back and taking some good catches and other things. And because of that, the second 10 overs produced only 37 runs. The third 10 overs produced only 40 runs. And then that's how they finally ended up with the 240 runs to score. And the bowling was so very tight. Michael Stark, who is a star bowler from that Australian team, and Pat Cummins, who is the fastest in the world right then, and he's the captain of the team also, Australia. And both of them bowled very tightly, and then 3-2-4, 3-2-2. So they took care of 7 wickets already among themselves.
Right.
And Zampa, who was also vying for the topmost wicket taker competition in the match for the overall tournament, where Shami just pumped him with one more wicket. Shami took 24 wickets and became the best bowler in the tournament. And till then, Adam Zampa was the best bowler. He was with 23 wickets, and he ended up with 23 wickets in the whole season.
The Cy Young of Australia.
Yeah, Adam Zampa is of Australia.
Right. Is out there. So why couldn't India do the same thing with their bowlers?
Sankar? They did. That's the beauty. Australia were 48 for 3 in under 10 overs. When India scored 80 runs in the first 10 overs, Australia was reduced to 48 for 3. And then came Travis Head and then the other man. And both of them played very cautiously. They know there is still 40 overs. That means 240 balls left. There's only another 200 runs to score. Run a ball. You can even spare 40 balls away. And then still, if you score 1 run per ball, they were good to go. Right. Because of the low score match. And they applied themselves. And these two batsmen, they just played throughout. Actually, Travis Head was out when Australia needed only 2 runs to win with 40 balls to go. So they made their calculation very nicely. And the bowlers, Shami, much was expected of him, and he didn't do that. And there were so many other factors that played in this overall results of this game. And which I would say that probably, I think one of our star bowlers, the number 1 wicket taker in the world, in India, a spin bowler, who called Ashwin. And this man, Ashwin, was never included in the team. Everyone was saying that all the coaches, all the experts, and everybody was saying that Ashwin should be included in this match because there are a lot of left-handed batsmen against whom Ashwin works well.
Analytics, in cricket.
Like father, like son. You got the deep stats. XG Kings over here. So, Dad, last question for you as we wrap up. What's next for India? And then if people want to watch some cricket in the next couple of years, what big tournaments are coming up?
I mean, there's not much immediately lined up because the next one will be the T20 championship in another 1 or 2 years.
And where is that?
A place I'm not sure about it. I think it was in Australia. It is going to be in Australia. And I will. That is the only thing. Other than that, then they will be continuously playing. Or there is always the World Test Match series going on. That is, they play regular Test matches, but every Test match carries a point, and whoever comes on top, they will be fighting for the final thing, and that will be the thing. And in this um, uh, cricket apart, I think I would like to say one parting word as I am leaving, that the cricket frenzy in India is so high and people are focusing on India. But I would also request all the viewers and your viewers also to say a prayer for those 41 people who have been trapped in a tunnel in India, in Uttarkashi. There are 41 people who have been trapped under a tunnel for the last 10 days. Because of the cricket frenzy, it did not come up to the limelight, but all over the place in the news and everywhere it is there, but it has not been noticed by the media. So I would appeal every citizen who is hearing, every Indian or every world citizen who is hearing it, to say a prayer for the successful rescue of these 41 people.
Humanitarian.
Absolutely.
You are a humanitarian, Sankar. Anbudan, right. Sorry, India couldn't pull through, but we'll get him next time.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you. Good day to you, and good to see you, Adam.
Nice to see you too.
Bye.
For people,
good to see that. I'll see you tomorrow.
Yep. Bye.
All right. Bye.
Happy Thanksgiving. Shalom.
To you as well.
I used to reply you as shalom, right?
Yes.
It's all good. Shalom, Anbudan. It's all the same. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, so people didn't know, but
yeah, I didn't know.
Reason you and I became friends. So and I was,
and he totally missed the bait. The T20 World Cup is next year in the United States.
Oh, that's right.
It's next year in the United States. I was like teeing him up. I was like, come on. The Australia one was the last one in 22.
It's
so yeah, it'll be here next summer.
It's a big deal. Like in Cary, there's a whole cricket community here.
It's awesome
in the Triangle. All right, sir. Let's get to the football part of this.
Let's get to the football.
Let's just start with the U.S. men's national team real quick. Have you ever seen a meltdown like Serginho Dest in a match that shouldn't have been a big deal? We should have just cruised, seen it out. Everything's fine, and he just lost it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that was bizarre. It's almost as though he didn't want to play in the next set of fixtures. Like he was like, and he was like, I don't want to travel back and forth. I'm good. We qualified for Copa America. I don't really need to play any more Nations League, which is unfortunate because we need to get some continuity. We need to get some work together. But yeah, that was a pretty disappointing effort from him, and it cost the team a win. Frankly, it totally changed. I think Tim Reams said it really well in the postgame. It changed our substitution pattern. It changed, what we were trying to set up to do. It invited pressure onto us. That said, you should not still lose. Like, you should be good enough that you can hold on to a lead. But at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. And, I just am excited that we're actually a proper soccer nation, that people are calling for Greg's head after qualifying for Copa America because they didn't win in a meaningless game against the team that knocked us out a few years ago. So,
I think
silver lining
matters for different reasons, right?
Yeah.
The result of the game is you don't want to lose, right? You want to win. You should have won that match. And they could have still won it either 1-0 or 2-1 or 3-2 because there were chances for them to finish that they just didn't finish, which maybe is another issue altogether. That Berhalter didn't take off both strikers and bring on more of a defensive set is, I think, curious to me. Why do you leave Balogun and Pepe both on? And why did you? Maybe he was going to take Reina off at halftime anyway to protect Reina from hurting himself, because that's basically what he does. But why wouldn't you take your strikers off and bring in more defensive-minded players? And it took him until like the 70th minute to do that. So I mean that's the proper criticism of Berhalter, not understanding what is necessary. And maybe Ream was like, this was the plan, and we, it threw everything, whatever.
Yeah.
My question about Dest is, out of nowhere, what level of reliability do they have in him going forward? He's not going to play in the semifinal. Who cares? I'm not sure winning the Nations League is that big a deal, even though they've never lost it. But if I were Berhalter, he wouldn't be playing in the semifinals or the finals. That, to me,
no, he's out of he's done for the tournament. I mean, he's done for the tournament for them. He has to be. I don't think there's a path forward for him in this tournament. He can come back to camp. He needs to. I think what he needs to do.
In January? I wouldn't bring him back in January.
I would. But I would bring him back, but I wouldn't play him. And I would say, you're going to work, and you're going to need to show your teammates that you know how to practice, and you need to be. You wouldn't play, but you're going to come back and you're going to work, and you need to demonstrate through your actions that we can count on you. And maybe at the end of a semifinal that we're winning heavily, you may see the pitch for a minute, but I wouldn't play him. But I'd bring him back and tell him to practice and show up properly for them. But yeah, I mean, it's really unfortunate. It is. We don't really have a great alternative there.
Joe Scally is just a guy, I think. Now, maybe he's.
I like Scally. I like Scally. I think he's still developing, but he's not Dest. He's not Dest. And for Dest, all of Dest's faults, he is our best right back, and we've got to rely on him.
Not only is he our best right back, but he was playing at such a high level. He was so good in the first match against Trinidad and Tobago. And then, I mean, his cross to Anthony Robinson, who also had 2 phenomenal matches.
Right.
I mean, Robinson.
That's exciting.
Oh, my gosh. The way Dest was dynamic, and he always has his defensive lapses, but the way Dest was dynamic on the right, and Robinson, who can do everything on the left, you said, oh, my, we had 2 outstanding outside.
We actually have fullbacks,
And it just, now I mean, Dest for me. Let me ask you a quick question, since he used to be a gunner. Questions about Matt Turner?
I think it's a confidence thing with goalkeepers. And once you start slipping a little bit and you lose your place, he bet on himself. Like, being the backup at Arsenal was a big move for him. And he did very well when he would be called into play. And he earned, through his play, the right to be a starter in the Premier League. Mm-hmm. And then once he took that job, he lost a little bit of confidence. The team in front of him wasn't quite as good defensively, and your mistakes are amplified at that level. And so I do think it's in between his ears, not so much his talent. And he's going to need to reclaim that. And then going from knowing you're the backup at Arsenal, but being good enough to be a starter in the Premier League, to now being the backup at Nottingham Forest, that is psychologically damaging. And it does make me wonder if that move was the best move for him. And everyone was saying, oh, he definitely needs to play. But he was playing fine and developing as the backup. It ended up working out for Arsenal as a club, but I don't necessarily know if it was the best move for him as a professional at this point. But hopefully he can regain some confidence and get some more form. And he's going to get more chances in with Forest. They'll play him in a cup or something like that. And he's got to demonstrate.
Are they still in? Oh, I guess the FA Cup is coming. So
they've got the FA Cup. So he's got to demonstrate it through his play. And if not, I mean, I don't know if he's the bang on starter for the United States, because I thought that was a bad goal, the one he gave up that he punched into the roof of his net. Yeah.
The second one was the bad one. The first one, he slipped. I mean, he could have been bigger. He went down close range.
The second one that gave me pause from distance and just palming it straight up into your net instead of over. That's bad technique, and that's where you're not focused because you're thinking about everything else.
I could see not catching it because it was kind of knuckling and it was a little tricky,
you got to punch it over. You can't punch it backwards.
That's
just bad form. He kept his weak wrists. So
that was bad. All right, couple of other things, and then we have we come out of the international break with a total banger at 7:30 a.m. Eastern time. Everton's 10-point deduction. They're appealing. They hope to get the point deduction lowered, regardless whether it's lowered to 8 or whatever. I think Everton is playing at a good enough level. It's not going to keep them down. It's not going to have them relegated. But what were your thoughts on the 10-point deduction, and does it mean anything for City and Chelsea going forward, who are both under investigation?
Yeah, and I think it's a great question, and we have to talk about it. One, I think you're right. I think if you were going to hand down that fine, this is the perfect time to hand it down. You can make a significant statement as the Premier League on a team that isn't really going to get. It's essentially a fine without making it a fine. It's just going to affect their winnings at the end of the year based on place. But the teams below them, Luton, Sheffield, they're so bad that it'll be quick before they get out of the relegation zone. I think they're going to be fine in that regard. I think it's an interesting move. And folks, like, how do you punish Everton when you have all these outstanding charges for City and Chelsea? And this is no different than any sort of situation where if you have the financial resources and more complicated charges, you can tie it up in court. And if you are poorer and under-resourced with more simple charges, it's easier to convict. It's easier to move that case through the system, frankly. And so Everton were a very simple case. It was one charge. It was easy to review. And you can't make an example out of City and Chelsea until you have addressed Everton. And I know that sounds kind of weird to say, but it allows you a footprint to say, for one charge, we gave 10 points. And that's a significant deduction. I think it means that there's going to be some significant penalties facing City and Chelsea. The biggest difference that both of them have for Chelsea, they have resources to fight it.
Yep.
City, obviously they have resources to fight it, but they also have international trade and state relationships that the United Kingdom, the British government, may need to protect for their own economic investments in their country, which creates a whole nother package of issues that we are unequipped and ill-equipped to even unpack and deal with. Do they pull investments from the British economy if they punish this club through sanctions? These are the questions that the FA and teams need to deal with, because they are what are really going to affect the long-range outputs of the game. And if we don't address them with a firm backing and with a kind of thoughtful approach, I think we're tumbling down a really bad path where it's kind of going to be completely ungoverned, which it almost is right now with the way you can buy some votes, you can get, loans between clubs now and all these different things that seem no-brainers that continue to just pile up. And so, I find it comical and laughable that the being mean to referees is what's bringing disrepute to the game, not the racism, not the financial doping, not the state money. It's being mean to the refs. So
real quick about Everton, there is some deception in Everton's case. So Everton overinflated anything reasonable about how well they would be doing in the near future when this whole thing started, right? They were projecting a top 6 finish, European competition money, all of that, when that was not going to happen. So they did overinflate what they expected to be coming in. But ultimately, what it boils down to is that Everton made a bunch of really bad business decisions that turned out poorly, and they're paying the price for it because they lost a lot of money. So ultimately, it was the performance of the squad that caused them to lose a lot of money, more than they expected, and that's why they are basically being docked to 10 points.
I don't know if you saw the banner that they unfurled, like the Everton supporters group. I saw that they're planning on unfurling at Goodison this weekend. Yeah. But essentially, it's massive financial losses for no athletic gain.
Right. It's all true. It's all true. They, this is basically it was an own goal by them. What City is accused of, 115 different charges, is really lying.
Well, it's also actual crimes, because if you were a corporation and you misrepresent your assets to allow you to gain a competitive advantage,
Wait a second.
SEC
Has that happened recently in the United States?
Yeah, right. To gain a competitive advantage, you will face criminal charges because it affects the capitalist economy. That is no different than what City has done.
Mhm.
And yet it's sport, even though it's still financial doping, it's still using your assets and misrepresenting your books to create, I mean, it's Enron, right?
Yeah.
Except with actual money on the back end. And we saw what happened to a major energy corporation when that happens. And we're just not going to see any sort of ramification of this other than maybe a 1-year relegation that would be very similar to what happened to Juventus, and they'll be right back the next year.
Oh, they're not going to relegate City.
Hey, Meg, I think City and Chelsea have a real shot at that, just because of the volume of it. But I don't think it will matter that much to them.
I think it's going to be. I think they're going to be mad. There might be point deductions, but I think there'll be massive fines. UEFA tried to remove City from European competition a few years ago. But they basically, it was statute of limitations had run out, and they couldn't do it. There's no such thing in the Premier League. So these violations go back more than 10 years.
The biggest worry about this is that if they do something drastic or significant, at the same time, you have to be watching what the Saudis are doing. They've requested a spot in the Champions League. They've submitted an application for a Champions League position for the Saudi Pro League.
Right.
If they get that, it's a game changer because now I can play fewer games, I can make more money, and I can still play in the Champions League. All of a sudden, the financial advantage and the prestige of the Premier League goes away in a hurry. And are these investments and are these investors going to stay in England? Or are they going to move to, if the Saudis can get it, why can't Abu Dhabi have a spot in the Champions League? Why can't whomever? And so why don't we just create our own club? And that is the risk of this running away if we are not dealing with this in a prudent fashion with it being transparent and above board.
Saudi's argument, and I researched this because I was curious. Saudi's argument is, why is Israel a UEFA club? And the whole reason Israel is a UEFA club is because they were kicked out of the Asians.
Yeah,
they were kicked out of that because nobody would play them.
Yeah,
and I mean, if Israel would not, I'm not sure Israel would want it. But if they were allowed back into the Asian Federation, then there would be an easier say, look, you're not in Europe. I mean, if you moved Saudi to Europe, you can be part of Champions League.
Right.
And that's why the Club World Cup will be a bigger deal going forward. It will be more than just 8 clubs.
36. It's 36 teams is what they're expanding to.
Yeah.
And
So,
it'll be a real tournament, and it'll be very interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah. All right. It's real quick. Did the vote, or I know it surprised you, it surprised the hell out of me, to allow to not ban, it was a temporary ban just for this window, any loans within club systems, if you will. So the Citigroup, which is owned by mostly by the Emirates, right? UAE? Was it the Emirates?
Right. Abu Dhabi.
Abu Dhabi. The Citigroup, which owns NYC, FC, and by the way, who is it? Is it Girona? Who leads?
They they own them, and then they own
who's on top of
Australia. I think it's Girona.
Girona, right? They lead La Liga.
Yeah,
they're a Citigroup. They're a Citigroup owned club that basically wouldn't prevent them from just loaning players across leagues for nothing. It wouldn't prevent that. So the 4 clubs that are owned by the Public Investment Fund in the Saudi Pro League could simply, hey, does Newcastle need a couple of midfielders? Here you go.
Right.
And eight different
They
clubs.
also own Palermo and Serie B.
Right.
So I'm looking at it now. 1, 2,
8
3,
clubs voted
4.
against the ban.
Yeah.
Right. There's only Newcastle and City that are nation state owned. So
Well,
the other clubs who voted, who voted against the ban is a curious decision, but you could honestly, if you look into it, you can see where it would benefit them possibly. But it was still a curious vote for me.
Yeah, well, Sheffield have Saudi ownership.
Right. But they don't have any ties to the PIF.
They don't, but they are owned by the Prince Abdullah. So with the royal family, they're not one to the PIF, but they have state government funds. Everton.
It doesn't help their club. It's a bought vote.
Yeah, I mean, by Newcastle, because the Saudi, it's like, all right, Saudi stick together. So you have Saudi Arabia for Newcastle and Sheffield United. Abu Dhabi owns City. Wolves are owned by a Chinese conglomerate, and they actually have a couple of clubs in China and I think one others, and so that makes sense. Chelsea obviously have they have a couple clubs that Bowley owns, and then who are the other two? Everton, which makes no sense, but I guess they do have a couple of clubs, but it seems like it's just the shell company. I don't know.
It makes sense if 777 Partners, which is trying to become,
if they get approved,
it makes sense for them because they own a fair number of clubs. It doesn't make it. I guess it makes sense for Forest because the owner also owns Olympiacos. So if he wanted to shuffle a player or two across, although Forest has 50 some odd players, it is just ridiculous. They're like poor man's Chelsea. Burnley was curious to me why they voted against the ban. Is that a Victor Company vote for his guy Pep? I don't understand that.
I mean, that one was weird. I'm not entirely sure on that one, but yeah, who knows? We can ask JJ Watt about it.
It's allowed, so don't be surprised, even though everybody denies it, if Ruben Neves winds up in the midfield for Newcastle, which has some personnel issues with the Sandro Tonali ban for almost another year. All right. By the way, real quick, back to the Everton thing before we make picks. Leeds, Southampton, and Leicester are all going to file suit against Everton because maybe this should have been handled before the season and a 10-point deduction would have had Everton go down. Right. So I don't know how that's going to play out, but that is an underlying
for last season.
Yeah, for last season.
Yeah.
So one of those, I think it would have been Leeds would have stayed up. I think Leeds would have stayed up. Anyway, so look, Leeds and Leicester, and so maybe not all three because it looks like Ipswich right now is in very good shape, but two of those three are going to come up. All three are having very good seasons in the championship. All right, do you want to tackle this week? Because frankly, I haven't done the math. I've been crazy busy. You're significantly in front in both ways to tabulate the standings by money and by record. I've fallen on hard times. It is sad. But we've got an impossible week to pick.
Yeah.
Anything better than 5-5, I think, will be a minor miracle. Anything better than, because honestly, I could go 0 for 10 this week so easily. Anybody?
Oh, yeah.
So
no, without a doubt.
Let's start with the game of the week. right out of the chute, 7:30 Eastern time.
All right.
At the Etihad, Liverpool at City. Go.
So Liverpool plus 350, City minus 147, draw plus 330 at the Etihad. I think it's curious how Haaland always picks up a knock right before international and can't play, but he's already said he'll be back.
Yeah.
I think City are. I think Liverpool will get their chances. That's one thing City have shown this year. You can get their chances. But I think they're going to play with a solid defensive foundation with Rodri there, and they're actually going to take Liverpool seriously in a way they did not take Chelsea seriously. And so I will take City straight up to win this one at home. But I think it's going to be a really, really edgy match. I don't think it's going to be as free flowing as the Chelsea match. I think it's going to be more akin to the Arsenal match. And I think it'll be a very interesting blueprint of how these three teams will play against each other, because Liverpool's best hope is to attack City. But if City play with structure, what is that going to open up behind them for City to exploit? It'll be a really fascinating chess match between Klopp and Pep.
Yeah, to me, I'm curious about the health of everybody in Liverpool's midfield, because in their last match, which, I mean, they won, but they had to play Cody Gakpo as at the 8.
Yeah,
that's what they were down to. But I think they should be okay. 1-1. We're going draw at the Etihad.
Would not be surprised by that at all. That makes perfect sense to me, and I would not be shocked.
That, of course, is absolute heart, not head.
Sure.
But we'll see. By the way, Alisson needs a result. He's lost his last 3 matches for Brazil.
Well, I think
3 matches in a row.
Yeah, I think that is more on the federation kind of having no process. But it's pretty. I watched that. Speaking of that, Argentina-Brazil game last night was insane. Brazil should have won that game 3 or 4-0. They just couldn't score. I mean, they had so many good chances. Martinelli had one cleared off the line. He had another one that he just shot at the keeper. I think Brazil were the better team. They just got by a free kick and a brilliant header by Otamendi. But moving to the next one, we got Newcastle and Chelsea next.
Yes.
Holy cow! This is the heater of a week.
Yeah, this honestly, it's just absolutely nutty. We don't know who's going to be healthy for Newcastle. Chelsea's got thousands of players to choose from. I like Newcastle at home, but I don't think there's anything about this match that would surprise me, including Chelsea putting 3 behind them. But it's I'll go Newcastle at home.
I think St. James is potentially the second toughest away ground to go play at in the league after Anfield. And that gives them a unique kind of solidarity to hang in there. I just don't see Newcastle creating enough, but Chelsea, while they looked great against City, I don't think Newcastle is going to be as open as City. So I think this is going to be a draw.
All right. Nottingham, home to Brighton. For everything that we have talked about for the first 3 months of the Premier League season, we haven't really discussed the fact that Brighton has kind of lost their way.
Yeah, they were our vibes team for the first month of the season, and then kind of fell off. They're like Colorado football, September only. But yeah, and I think Forest have done fairly well hanging in there and grinding out some results. But Brighton, 3 straight draws coming into this match. I think I still like them at. I believe they're at home this week.
No, they're at Forest.
No, they're at Forest. Okay, they're at the City Ground. All right, well then, I'm still going to take Brighton straight up to win away. I think they have a couple weeks off. They can be a little rested, and while they are not in great form, they're in a little bit better form than Forest.
I am team Steve Cooper. I'll take Forest at the City Grounds. All right, Burnley home to West Ham. West Ham, man, Jekyll and Hyde, depending on where this match is. If it's at London Stadium, they're good. If it's on the road and they ain't good, this is at Burnley. I'm going to take a draw here.
You're taking a draw. Wow. I mean, that's given Burnley a lot of credit. I think that at the end of the day, Burnley just don't do enough to win. And so while West Ham have been kind of helter-skelter on the road, I just think that bottom 3, it's really hard for them to pick up points unless it's against each other. And so that's going to be where it kind of comes down to. So I'm going to take West Ham on the road to beat Burnley.
All right. Luton at Kenilworth Road, home to Crystal Palace. Palace has just done nothing for me this year. Luton, I think, plays a style that is difficult to deal with unless you are super dynamic. And I don't see Palace right now as that with their injury issues. So I'm going to take a draw here as well.
I like where your head's at. Luton's last 5 matches have been loss, draw, loss, draw, loss, which means they're up for a draw.
You like draw as well?
Yeah, I like draw as well.
I mean, can we get Patrick Vieira back for
What a terrible decision. And then I guess do we have what? Sheffield. Do we pick Sheffield and Bournemouth?
We haven't picked that. Sheffield at home to Bournemouth. This is again anything. Literally, I will, if I'm 0 for 10 this week, I will not be surprised. I won't.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get lucky. Yes. I've got Sheffield winning at home to Bournemouth, but Bournemouth probably has more dynamic goal scoring with Solanke and Billing. But I'm taking Sheffield at home.
I think that's a reasonable take. I'm just keeping with my adage that I'm never picking Sheffield again. And so I'm going to take Bournemouth on the road or to get this done. And at the end of the day, I do think Solanke just gives them a player that is truly Premier League quality. And I don't know if there's somebody at that level for Sheffield that can put the ball in the back of the net enough.
All right, let's go to G-Tech. We have a London derby here. It's North London v West London. Brentford, which I gave up for dead a long time ago, still has some things that worry me, but they also have a lot of quality, even without Ivan Toney. And maybe the winner of this match gets Ivan Toney when January hits. I don't know. So Arsenal at Brentford, who you got?
This is going to be, I think, away at Brentford is always a tough fixture. They do a really nice job kind of playing at home, knowing what to do. They've had a very good home record, but they have not played anyone of note at home yet. All of their biggest matches have been on the road. Newcastle, United, Chelsea, Liverpool. They've played all of those teams already, but they've played them all on the road. The only team that has beaten them at home this year, surprisingly, is Everton, 3-1. But I like Arsenal in this, and mainly because I think they will be Jesus looked fit against Argentina. He played a full 90. Martinelli looked really sharp and came off with about 70 minutes to go, got a good run in. Gabriel played for Brazil, so all 3 Gabbies were on the pitch. Odegaard is back in training and should be back in time for this game. Saka got out of England without an injury. And so we're coming in with about as fully fit of a 11 as we can, minus Thomas Partey, and we need to wait on the status of Ben White. But getting Jesus and Odegaard back into the creative lineup just gives us another element in the attack. And we got to start Ramsdale. Raya can't play this game. So he's going to have a point to prove.
Oh, that's right.
Because he is on loan.
That's so. Oh my God! This is the game. The game of the year for Aaron Ramsdale.
So exactly. And so Raya has to sit this one out. And Ramsdale was away with England, played, got to train, got to be in that England camp, and is going to come in, I think, with some good vibes. So I really like Arsenal in this one. I think it'll be not as close as people expect, just because there's just so many different changes that are coming in a good way for them.
I like Arsenal as well. Here's my question: long term, let's pretend Ramsdale's great.
Yep. ...
What happens next?
We'll see. I mean, if he is truly great, the nice part about it is the next few matches for us are Wolves, Lens at home in the Champions League, Luton. So, there's no reason why Ramsdale couldn't get a couple games here and there, and then Raya back for Aston Villa in early December. So, I don't think it necessarily changes much, but Raya also got his first Spain cap and was able to play with that team. So I think good situation to be in right now. Long term, it probably won't be, but but I think with Ramsdale needing to play, Odegaard and Jesus back, I think it's a comfortable win on the road and a tough place to go win.
It's the only minus that I am on board with this week.
Yeah.
Arsenal's a heavy enough favorite, minus 130. That's what I have here. Tottenham home to Aston Villa. 130 plus. Tottenham's plus 135. Villa's plus 175 away. The draw is plus 285.
I mean, the draw is the sensible pick here, just because it's away for Villa, and they have been a little bit unpredictable on the road.
Mhm.
If this was at Villa Park, I think it's a no-brainer. I think Villa win this comfortably. Tottenham are still missing a ton, but they have arguably right now the most informed keeper in Vicario,
He's amazing.
which will keep them in it. I don't think they create enough without Madison to really threaten. But Villa are open enough that this will be a fun game. But I'm expecting a draw here.
We won't have Romero, right? Is Romero
no Romero,
Romero,
no Van de Ven,
for a long
no
time,
Madison.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm going draw here, but it'll be draw in a very Tottenham way. Tottenham will likely concede 2 goals in the last 15 minutes for a 2-2 finish. Everton home to Manchester United. I'm looking forward to seeing the banner. By the way, who did you take again? You took.
I took a draw.
You took a draw. So we both
took a draw. Yep.
All right. So Everton home to United.
Oof. So I think the 2 weeks off helps United. It just gives them some space. I think it just gives them some space. I don't care about their form.
Out of their ass.
I don't think the form. I think the form, even with the form, everyone was dumping on them, and now they're not the story. But I do not want to be the first team to go into Goodison Park after they have just been handed a points deduction with that crowd with a rocket up their butt. I think that it is going to be hostile. I think it is going to be rowdy. I think it is going to be intense. And I do wonder if United are going to be able to keep their head for those 90 minutes. And so I like Everton to win straight up in this one.
So do I. I actually think that water finds its level. United, which won 4 of their last 5 matches without really being the better team in any of them. I think at some point it has to come back. That's why I said the horseshoe will fall out of their ass. And they might be even better than Everton, although I don't think they will be. But I think we'll see some of that reversion to the mean because, frankly, there hasn't been a luckier team in the Premier League in the first third of the season in terms of results. I mean, so many matches they weren't good and won.
If they don't get a result here, I'm just going to read you what's coming for United, and you tell me which match Ten Hag gets fired at. away at Everton, away at Galatasaray, away at Newcastle, Chelsea, Bournemouth, Bayern Munich, away at Liverpool.
Well, to me,
I think they lose every single one of those except for Bournemouth.
Trick question, because I don't think he's going to get fired. That doesn't mean that next year is going to be wonderful, but I don't think he's going to get fired. Although, I mean, United has done stranger things. But I
think if you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, if you crash out of the Champions League, you lose away to Galatasaray, you lose to last place in the Champions League group, and then you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 losses out of 5 in the Premier League, you're going to be sitting down there at like 14th, 15th. I don't think they have the appetite, and you're going into Boxing Day. So
you say he's going to get boxed up.
I think the Liverpool game. I think after December 17th, the Liverpool game, he's gone.
Okay, well that would just be fun to talk about. And my son,
unless that's if they get it, if they get a result this weekend, I think it'll push out. If they don't get a result this weekend, the next set of fixtures are just so intimidating for them. I just don't see it.
No question. All right, let's wrap up the week. Craven Cottage, Fulham and Wolves. I kind of like this match. I think Wolves are good.
Yeah.
I think Wolves are good. Fulham, I don't know what to make of them other than they absolutely cannot score. But I like their back line. I love Robinson and Ream.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be enough. I've got this as a draw because I think a match like this has draw written all over it.
I mean, it draws the smart pick, but I like what you said earlier. Wolves play, and Gary O'Neill is a good manager. And if I was England, I would be looking at Gary O'Neill to come lead my England setup, but and get rid of Southgate. So with that, I just think in these tight games, draw would make sense if both of these teams played a similar style, but they don't. And that Wolves want to go for it and Wolves want to try to get a result. Give me a bit of confidence in them pulling it off. So I'll take Wolves to win straight up.
And if I were you, I would take Wolves every week based on Wolves winning against Tottenham from 1-0 down. I mean, that's just that was
wonderful. Yeah. They deserved that too. They were the better team after the first 10 minutes. They were great.
Not arguing that one bit. All right, Jay, this was fun. Tell your dad we said hello. I appreciate everybody.
All right. Yeah.
The real job awaits. And you can always, we do this every week. So appreciate everybody spending some time with us. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Take care.